Hi, this is CRAIG VAN NESS, voice actor, audiobook narrator, and producer, and this is the ABCs of Audiobooks. The letter for this session is B, for breaths. Now, breaths are a perennial topic for anyone recording audiobooks or audio drama. There are some very strong opinions about it. This always struck me as a little odd. We all breathe. I'm doing it right now. And breathing is a natural part of any performance, any character performance. So I think when people talk about this, they talk about obtrusive breaths or perhaps unnatural sounding treatment of breaths. And those detract or tend to detract from the performance. So I'm going to talk a little bit about my opinions on this subject. And I want to stress that they are my opinions and other opinions are available. So do shop around. My opinions fall into two categories: performance and production. On the performance side, I'd like to begin with preparation. I know that's a topic for another video, so forgive me while I intrude a bit on that. The first thing that I do when preparing, which directly relates to breaths, is to mark up the text. I read through it to myself and then read through it aloud and mark up where I'm going to take breaths in the performance of a narration, and in particular of dialogue pieces. Now, most of the text we narrate as audiobook narrators has not been written to be read out loud. And therefore, it sometimes lacks punctuation, which we need in order to breathe. So we've got to mark it up and decide where we're going to take those breaths in order to tell the story and not breathe in a distracting way. So the first thing is preparation. The second part of preparation is thinking about the characteristics of both the narrators and the individual characters that we might be voicing. Is the character slow and laconic and never really that excited, and therefore you never really hear them breathe? They take their time, they pause between phrases, a bit like that. Or are they very excitable and they take short, rapid breaths and they have very short sentences and phrases? If they're like that, then of course those breaths are part of the performance. So by all means, keep them in. And when we talk about breaths, generally we're talking about, as I said, those which detract from the performance. The other parts of preparation I want to talk about is position. The position of yourself when you record, and the position of the copy and the microphone. I come from a singing background, so I am a bit of a belly breather. Breathe from the diaphragm, I should say, and that's what I'm used to. So I need to wear loose, comfortable clothing, which allows me to do that. I need to sit up straight so that my shoulders are back and my air column I'm producing with my body is unencumbered. It's straight and it's able to flow up and out through my mouth. I like to use a stool in the booth. I perch on it with 1 foot up and 1 foot down on the floor. I like to have my copy just above my eye line and the microphone just above it as well, so that my chin is slightly raised and the air can flow out. And that way I can breathe freely, naturally, quietly, without much labor or effort. The second part of breathing I want to talk about, the second point, is production. This is also just as important. If we've thought about where we're going to take our breaths, and if we've thought about how our characters, including our narrator, breathe as part of their normal speech patterns, then it's just a question of removing the breaths which we might find intrusive, and or treating the other breaths which are part of our performance but may still be a little intrusive. Now, this is where you have a discussion with your director, if you're working with a director, or yourself, and you have a conversation with your producer, again, yourself if you're self-producing, and decide what the house style is for this particular production. I use my DAW, my editing software, my digital audio workstation, to remove breaths which I consider to be not part of the performance and obtrusive. Typically at the beginning of phrases, because I'm going to take a run at a long narrative phrase, so I take an extra big breath and it came out a bit loud. So I'll just go ahead and edit those out, or indeed paste room tone over top of them in the editor, and they're gone. The second part of that is breaths which encompass or comprise, I should say, part of the performance. And in those, you can use audio plugins such as noise gates or de-breathing tools to attenuate those or soften them. Now, you must be very careful when using these because they can, it's very easy to overdo, and they can make the resulting performance sound a little unnatural, a little inhuman, which is exactly the opposite, usually, of what we're going for. Of course, there are occasions where you might be voicing an AI, an artificial intelligence, or in a sci-fi fantasy, some species of alien that doesn't breathe, in which case you deliberately remove all the breaths and you incorporate that no breathing characteristic into your performance. And you want that character to sound a little unworldly. But for the most part, people breathe, we're people telling stories about other people, and we want to hear everyone breathing naturally in a way that doesn't detract from the performance. So those are my thoughts on breaths. Thank you for listening, and stay tuned for the remaining videos in the ABCs of Audiobooks. Bye-bye.